Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
When I was in middle school and in high school, there was a team, there was an activity that I really wanted to be part of. I worked hard, I practiced, and then I would go to tryouts and I wouldn't make it. And this happened for several years. Every time there was an opening on that team, I would go through the whole thing, try out for it, and I wouldn't make it. But finally, in the 10th grade, I went out for this particular activity and I made it. I'm Julie Lyles Carr. This is God on the Go, where we help you make the minutes matter. When I found out that I had made that team, I was so excited. But then something happened that really didn't make sense. Just a few weeks after I found out I made that team, my mom and dad sat me down and told me that we were going to be moving across the country. That meant that I wasn't going to be able to be part of that team that I had finally made. I was so sad. It didn't make sense. We're going to be talking about, for the next few episodes of God on the Go, what it means to trust God, how we can trust God. And one of the times that trusting God can be hard is when things don't make sense, when they feel confusing. Now I can look back, as hard as that time was, and I can see what God was up to. But in the middle of it, it seemed really fuzzy. Now I can tell you that that move that we made when we moved from California all the way to Washington, D.C., that was where I met a group of friends that ultimately I made the decision to go to the college I went to because of those friends, because some of them were going to be going there. And that's where I met my husband, Mike, because I went to that college, a college I probably would not have gone to had I not moved and met these new friends. One of my brothers met his future wife when we moved there. They didn't get married for many years later. They were still kids at the time, but that's where they met. That's where they first encountered each other. Trusting God when things don't make sense, when things seem blurry to us, it can be confusing. It made me wonder about this. You know, people put on glasses, right? So they can see more clearly. And it doesn't mean that those things aren't there, that they can't see clearly before they put the glasses on. But once they put the glasses on, they can see a little more clearly. Do you know when the first glasses were made so that people can see more clearly? It was around 1300 in Italy, over 700 years ago. Trusting God to me feels like knowing that at some point He's going to put some glasses on me so I can see things a little more clearly, even when they first don't make sense. It reminds me of this verse in Romans 8:28. We know that all things work for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. There may be some things going on for you right now that don't make sense to you. Maybe you have a friendship that you really cared about, and now that friendship seems to be going away. Maybe you've had to make a move and you don't understand why. Anytime there's something that doesn't make sense, that's when we need to lean in and trust God even more. Trust that there will come a time where we will understand what He's been up to. But even when things seem blurry and fuzzy and confusing, knowing that He is always working things out for our good. It reminds me of a guy named Paul. He was an apostle of Jesus, and he was so excited to tell people about Jesus that he went on all kinds of travels to spread the news. Well, there were people who didn't like hearing what Paul had to say, and he ended up in a lot of trouble with the Romans, who were the ruling people at the time. They arrested him and they put him on a boat. They were going to take him to Rome, where he was going to go to prison. Now, if I was Paul, that would be hard to trust God, because that wouldn't seem to make sense. He was trying to do good things and people were making it really hard for him. As he's on this ship on its way to Rome, there's a shipwreck. And they end up, he and the crew members and the people who were taking him to prison, they end up on the island of Malta. Because Paul went to Malta, he was able to help heal people. He was able to share the gospel, the good news of what Jesus has done for us. All because God did something that we as humans might think didn't make sense, but God had a bigger plan. So what's going on for you right now that doesn't make sense? Where is it a little hard to trust God right now? Sometimes things are going to be a little blurry, and sometimes there comes a day where we can see more clearly because God shows us what He's been up to. Trusting God is the best way to take care of your heart, to feel peace, and to know that God is in control. Let's keep this conversation about trusting God going. I want you to text the word GO, that's G-O, to 89419. And throughout the week, we'll send you trivia questions and discussion questions and a memory verse and all kinds of great stuff. A big shout out to our sponsor, George Fox University. George Fox University wants your student to feel known and appreciated for who they are and supported in their spiritual journey. You can check out more about George Fox University at georgefox.edu. And I'll see you next time on God on the Go.